Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. We have a really big problem, guys. We have Ryan Jones here, and he knows where all the bodies are buried. He knows me when I was an alcoholic. He knows me when then this crazy SOB decided to let me talk him into buying a house. that which we just sold, which is funny as shit, and we'll get into all that. But we have Mr. Ryan Jones in the house. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. So let's before we get into the other stuff, let's back up. How much do you remember? Because we both drank a lot. So how much do you remember? We were working 80 hours a week. And then I bought a house and I was like, oh my God, I'm Airbnb and like, we should totally do this. And how did I con you into this crazy thing?
I remember you walked up to me while I was working behind the bar at Rebel, and you walked up, you're like, hey, we should buy a house together. And I went, how much is it going to cost? And you're like, don't worry about money. We'll worry about that later. And I was like, okay, sure. Why not? Let's buy a house.
That sounds about right. And I remember that we had looked for like 3 months, and then like the prices in San Antonio jumped, and we were like, we're not going to do this. Like, we're not going to, like, this is ridiculous. These people are out of control. And what's funny is if you fast forward to today, you're like, oh my God, we picked up 6 of them. Right. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But I remember this. I remember that it was the day before Thanksgiving, and I saw that property, and then I sent it over to you and Gates, and we're like, okay, we're gonna look at it afterwards, and we kind of like, okay, I think we're gonna be this, and then I was leaving for Europe, and then we bought a house, and it was a whole thing, and so we sold it, 4 years later, ran an Airbnb long term. Like, if you're looking back on that now, what do you think is like the biggest takeaways from like that experience, and kind of like what you think about that? Because it wasn't always good. The AC broke. I mean, there's been so many things, so many reasons.
In a nutshell, people think they deserve a lot more than they do.
That should be a shirt. Yeah. And you're meaning just in general, right?
Yeah,
like
every single person, whether you're the one selling the house, whether you're the one brokerage, whatever you're doing, everybody just thinks they deserve so much more. I think people need to take 10% less than they think they deserve, because then they'll probably get more people back in return.
I was listening to an apartment guy the other day that I respect, and he was talking about changing units. And he says that he only remodels 40% of the units, because if I remodeled all of them, what's the point in the next seller even buying it in the first place? And he said, so if I do half of them, show them the blueprint, leave some meat on the bone, I win, they buy, and then they buy from me again, and so on and so on. So, think about that just in general is that, I think one of the things is like, are you creating a space where everything's a transaction? Or you're like trying to like do business with that person for like 15 plus years?
Yeah, exactly. And too many people focus on right now because they want to make a quick buck, but they don't focus on 5 years from now when they could have made 10 times the amount, because they would have been referred more business for taking less money on the front end.
Correct. And that I try to tell everybody all the time, like the money be damned, like who cares about that? Like the execution of buying it, furnishing it, running it as an Airbnb, figuring it out, putting a renter in, getting that contract signed, selling it, getting it fixed up, having to pay more to clean it up, when we because the renter had left the place in shambles. The confidence from seeing a deal from start to finish, I think, is almost more beneficial than whatever dollar amount you made, because the confidence of actually seeing a deal all the way through.
Yeah, exactly. Because we get to see that whole property mature. And even right before we got rid of that, just speaking in reference, I mean, we know how we got out of that one. It was kind of a pain in the butt, but we figured it out and we got it handled. And the stress that was there, it still actually kind of made me feel good knowing that we were able to pull it off.
Yeah, correct. So, what I want to do is, you tell your story where you want to start, and then we'll kind of see where we go from there.
In a nutshell, I am the product of a nurse and a truck driver. My dad was a truck driver. He took me on the road when I was a kid. I was going with him from the moment he could actually pick me up and carry me, and my mom would allow me to go. I was in the truck with him. So I kind of got that fire inside me that allowed me to want to travel and see the world and country as much as possible. And I only have 48. I have 48 states. I only have 2 to go. So I have to get Alaska and Hawaii knocked off, of course, the ones that aren't directly attached. But yeah, that led me down the path. I mean, that's what led me to San Antonio. I started off in California in Riverside, and then we moved to Oklahoma when I was in 3rd grade. I ended up moving back when I graduated to Arizona for a few months, and then to California, and life took me to Canada and Texas. And I mean, I've been in all these locations and it's been wonderful and brought me back to Oklahoma. Now I'm back again. This one was a choice this time. I wasn't forced here by anybody. So yeah, I came here and now I'm just trying to start afresh, start anew, help this area out as much as possible.
And you spent a lot of time in customer service, bar managing, bartending, stuff like that.
Absolutely. I mean,
and what do you think you've learned about people in all that time?
Patience. Plain and simple. I went from retail to oil field to the bar industry and now into independence, and dealing from people from all different spectrums, especially going from even retail or even bartending like restaurants. The amount you learn on the fly from any job, because they can train you, you can go through your introductory, anything in any job, but nothing's going to train you like being in a restaurant or even being in a retail space, because there are things you're going to learn and there's aspects of the business that you're never going to understand until you actually do it. And that's what everybody says, right? You got to actually get out there and do it, and you have to push for that. And yeah, especially the bar industry. So many people take that job for granted, and you saw it, and all the money we wasted over the years and all the money we saw other friends waste over the years, all their time and energy. I mean, you could have, if they would have had somebody come in like yourself, just a freaking very beginning of it and be like, hey, this is how you're going to do it. In 5 years, you can retire.
Yeah. We're not going to allow you to, we're going to take 15% out of all your paychecks. We're going to put it in a fund and we're going to buy real estate, and you're not allowed to see it and you're not allowed to touch it. And like, to be honest with you, if somebody would have came back to, if I trusted them, I probably would have been like, sounds great. Just take it out and don't let me think about it. Cause I think about, good Lord, we were making so much cash. I could have bought, 30 apartments by now. And that industry, like, and I think what broke my heart, and there'll be something that we do down the road, but like 5 days into the pandemic, you're COVID, you're getting friends a call and like, hey man, I'm out of money. I'm like, out of money? I've watched you make $7,000 a month for the last 3 years, out of money. What are you talking about? But like, that's the life of the service industry. It's like out of money. I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys. So, that's the thing that breaks my heart, like seeing the same people on Facebook, going to the same fucking bars, they've been at the same job for 10 fucking years. You're just like, man, because I think what disheartens me the most is they're so talented. Like they're so talented, but they get stuck in that kind of, what they say in Austin, that velvet rut, Yeah,
exactly. I mean, going bar industry, service industry, management, whatever restaurant you were in, you see so many people, and it's not even like what they did at their job that was talented. It was things that they were naturally good at that they didn't embrace. So it was just more of a hobby that all they talked about was, oh man, I love rock climbing. It's so great. It's amazing. I do it every weekend, and I do it every week. And then go do rock climbing. Right here. I guess you need to pay your bills.
I tell you what, I've shared this story with like one other person, and I have an innate ability of getting out when it's time. Like, I think you can kind of like, sometimes you're at a restaurant and you're like, maybe it's time to leave. But this is actually the opposite reason. I got out of the restaurant in Austin when 3 of the servers were driving Audis. And I was like, And like it was like we were making a ton of money, like Austin was booming, like, but like something about it, like I was like, I don't feel like I'm gonna like where this is headed. And so like I was like, this seems like the guests are driving Audis, the servers are driving Audis, like I don't know, this just doesn't feel right to me. And it was like time to go because like before COVID, like I'm saying like a couple years before COVID, but like it was alarming, how much money the restaurant business is making. And to be honest with you, probably still is. And you get kind of, I wouldn't say cash blind, but you get like knowing that you could go in and make 300, $400 on a shift. It didn't really, like, you were like, fuck it, I'm going to go take off 2 days and disappear. And like, you kind of just always had that thing. And, when you stopped viewing that as an option and you were like, I need something, like that's stable, but it's not stable. Like, and so, yeah, man, you're kind of like, it's really odd because you're making so much money, but you're like, oh, this is like, I don't know if I could do this forever. Like I promised myself the biggest thing. I was like, I can't be that 50-year-old waiter. Like I can't do it. Like that to me would
Every
be like,
restaurant has one.
I know that's what I would always tell myself is like, please don't be that guy.
See, I always liked that guy because that guy always
No, I love that
and
guy.
If you stayed close, he was always like, just don't worry about them. They don't know what they're talking about. I've been here for 25 years. I know. I'm like, that's a long time, man.
Yeah, that's a long time, dude. I remember there was this guy at one of the first restaurants I worked with. He had 2 restaurant gigs. He was like 55. He worked. He drank 3 Red Bulls a day and a pack of smokes a day. And he was just like, but he was the number one waiter and he always made money. And like, I didn't really know him that well, but then I spent some time with him and I was like, oh, this dude's like really unhealthy. Like, this is like not, the way to do it. So yeah, I mean, that's when you start realizing that money is not the barometer to how we're judging life. But, in that time and space, like I'll forever be grateful to all the amazing conversations I had with many different personalities and different walks of life. And I think it served me for the better personally.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I learned so much about myself and just the whole drinking aspect. I mean, obviously, but the drinking aspect of it, that right there in itself, it brings it's a part of the industry. You almost can't do it without it. Mm-hmm. And that's the part I didn't like, because coming into the pandemic, like you said, going about 2 months into it, and when you take a step back and you're like, Jesus, am I really drinking this amount every month? And it's so easy to be able to, categorize, like itemize it out and say, wow, I drank a whole 1.5 liters in the last 3 weeks. This is insane. I got to stop. When you see that, something changes and you just have to just end it.
Yeah, that was like every 2 days for me. So that you're doing way better than I was. But yeah, I mean, I think, that's kind of the rub is like, when we came up in the business, like that was the norm, like 100%, not even like a question. And if you didn't, it was even odd. And so, for me to spend the last like 7 months in the business and not be drinking, people were like really blown away. Like they couldn't, and I don't recommend it to everybody, but I was coming up with cocktails through like smell and stuff. And people were like, I don't know how you're doing that. And I'm like, cause I'm just focused on this, this thing. I want to get clean. Because it's cute when you're 21. It ain't cute when you're 35. It just doesn't get as cute.
Yeah, nobody wants to see your gut over the ice well while you're trying to shake them up a Ramos Gin Fizz for 5 minutes.
For sure. So you did something really crazy and you decided to listen to all the podcasts I did, which is insane. And, I'm just curious, kind of, it's a lot of different stories, a lot of different personalities, a lot of different businesses, a lot of different, just life in general, kind of like break down, like after listening to the 400+ episodes, like what are your biggest takeaways from all those lessons?
Let me just say that from knowing you for as long as I have, and that's literally starting it and still listening to it, because you just released one this morning that I haven't listened to yet. I listened to an audiobook at the gym instead. My apologies. I'll get to it later. But if I had to say, seeing your growth on it, and if people don't see it by doing it in order or however they do it, they're missing out, because you're growing as the podcast grows. And from listening to it, the information that you take in and the amount of information that you ingest just from it, and especially because it does keep you interesting, because you do so many different types of shows all the time that doesn't really get boring. You kind of stay on top of it, and it allows you to actually enjoy it. And you take in, like I said, you take in so much information that you almost can't even process it. And then you catch yourself in a conversation later and you say something, where the hell did that come from? Did I just say that? And you're learning. And the amount of information, I know I've said information like 3 times, but still, it's incredible. I enjoyed it. I really did.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it again.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because I was very cognizant to not get you see a lot of guys that I'm all about niches, but they'll go down to a niche and they're like 45 episodes in, they're like, okay, I've kind of covered the whole sector, and I'm like, and then they have to like rebrand and everything. So I was very cognizant about creating a topic. But I had a buddy, same thing, listen to all of them, and he messaged me and he's like, dude, don't get me wrong, like episodes are fire, but he's like, you're asking questions and like watching you like grow up through the podcast. He's like, I really wish you would go listen to yourself on episode 1 to now. He's like, I don't even think you would recognize yourself. And I'll catch some clips from time to time of the old school stuff. And mainly because I had a head shaved and a mustache, which was really odd. That was a whole nother, that's a plan. I don't know what was going on back then, but
Side effect,
maybe so. But man, I was just, and I don't think people understand this. Like when you want to do something for as long as you do, and then your episode shows up on Apple iTunes next to like Ed Milet, and you're like, okay, how is this a thing? Like, not like ranking wise, but it was just there,
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Okay, well then I'm doing it. Well, what's the point, right? Like, and then you're like, and you have to like fight yourself, like when you press record all the time, right? And I remember this stat. It's like my favorite stat, like fucking ever, and it's like the thing I remind myself almost every day. 40% of the podcast on Apple to iTunes have 1 episode.
That's it.
So yeah, and so think about that in life. How many times you start something and give up, or how many times you don't see it through because nobody's listening and everything. Like, how are they supposed to listen? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
They don't even know who you are, right? And so something I heard the other day, it was like, look, you're doing great, but like compared to, or like to this person over here, like the volume is not even close. And so sometimes in life, it's not that we have to do more or we have to do something different. It's that we have to do more of the thing that we're currently doing.
Yeah, it's quality over quantity always.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And so as you listen to the episodes and you listen to everything that was talked about, what was something that standed out to you that kind of maybe something you didn't know about or something you learned about that was like super intriguing to you?
Figuring out who I am. A lot of the people in there, I mean, as you know, as everybody knows, construct your life, and everybody's life is different. And seeing how every person approaches their life and approaches the other people within their lives is fascinating to me. And being in many different types of industries and coming around different types of dynamics of people from different demographics from all walks of life, it's really interesting to see that you can see someone's life unfold and you can almost experience what they experienced in such a short period of time. And as far as like myself and my own growth, I mean, listening to it and going through the information, especially financially, my biggest Achilles heel is finances and trying to, develop money without having money. It's a real talent, and a lot of people are really good at it. So seeing how some people are able to create opportunities from situations fascinates me, because every situation can, you can benefit from it in some way, shape, or form. And if you take good out of it, as opposed to just taking the negative out of it, you're ultimately always gaining something every time you do something. So every time you approach a situation, as long as you approach it with the right attitude and you take something away, then it's never a loss. And seeing those podcasts and understanding that each one had a takeaway that I could digest and enjoy was probably the best aspect of going through each one individually. Not to mention, I met a lot of people on there that I currently now know and I have been in contact with. I mean, my business coach, Matt Throop, I mean, listening to his podcast on there, it was really great to see him go on there and listen to what he had to say, and then see his formulation of his podcast, and then listening to how he does it, especially seeing it from the aspect of, being more of like the mentee to mentor situation, and understanding how that dynamic works, and just kind of seeing how even they have struggles, but he's still killing it. He's doing a great job.
I've never heard the concept put that way, developing money without having the money. Like, that might have to be a whole workshop, because I like that kind of framework of thinking, because it's getting you out of the worker mentality and getting you into the business owner, the CEO role, kind of are the creator of said money, and so on and so on. And I think that's super important. And one of the jokes that my buddy has, he runs the Short-Term Rental Secrets podcast, and they've done like 56 episodes. And he's like, I get like 7 DMs a week of people like wanting to learn Airbnb, and he's like, they want to learn Airbnb, yep, they never listen to an episode. And he's like, go listen to the episodes and then I'll talk to you. And it's not to be rude, it's just that like you have to be willing to like do some of the work yourself.
Yeah, I mean, everything's so readily available. I mean, I think I've probably listened to a few people on yours as well as a few other podcasts, because I mean, you guys even talk about it on Break Dump, just about how people will jump around from information, and everyone wants the attention, and they want that person's help, and they want on their end, but you have to give more than you want, or you're going to leave the world empty. You have to approach it that way. If you're not giving anything, that's just how it goes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I joke with people, like my education was Bigger Pockets. Like, my education was sitting in the car for 2 years straight, listening to Bigger Pockets on the drives back and forth, and understanding wholesaling, multifamily, STR, all that stuff. And at some point, my message to everybody is, at some point you have enough information that you need to go put it into action, because you could talk to all my clients, especially two this week, that are buying their first investment property. He's like, oh, I thought I knew what I was doing. He's like, I had no fucking idea what was going on until I had to deal with the inspector. I had to deal with the appraisal. I had to deal with this. I had to deal with the title. I had to, and it's like, I can only give you so much advice. I can be here as a sounding board, but you have to create a space where you're pushing forward, and then stepping back and going, okay, I learned that. Don't do that again. Who do I have now? And so, if you have listened to the podcast, or you have listened to books, or you have listened to YouTube, like, there needs to be some sort of action within there to kind of create even more learning. And I think that's where, you can't sit on the sidelines for 2 years and just not do anything. And like I said before, like, let's say you lose, let's just say you lose $15,000 or something like that in a property. Like, okay, great. Like, yeah, but you had the opportunity to make 30 or 40 maybe down the road. So like, in my opinion, it's a calculated risk that you're welcome to take. But like, to think that you're not going to make that mistake, or something might not happen that's out of your control, like, it's not just how life works. You can't just put bumpers around everything and expect it to all be good. Like, I mean, we've had 2 or 3 properties like fall through in the last couple of weeks. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. Like,
it happens.
It happens. We're going to lose some money. It is what it is. We're going to keep pushing forward. Like, it's not a big deal. I can't make the appraiser do his job properly. Like,
Yeah, there's only so much that's within your control. I mean, it's just like everybody says, worry about what you can focus, like, worry about what's within your control, and whatever's not, just, don't worry about it, because there's literally nothing you can do about it. You're just wasting your energy and time. And that's the most valuable thing anybody has.
Yeah. And so, as you look at your life, and you jump into a couple different business ideas, and you jump into, where you're headed, like, if you could fast forward a year from now or 2 years from now, like, where do you want to be? What intrigues you? What excites you these days?
Oh man, what doesn't excite me these days? Well, just what I've been doing recently is, I mean, I've been doing volunteer work in I'm in the Durant Clara area in Oklahoma, and I didn't realize how much I really would actually enjoy doing volunteer work, and just the relationships you build from doing that, and getting into a community, no matter what the size is. You're either all in or you're not. Are you where you live, or is it just a house to you? You have to, if you're going to live there and you're going to grow a business, you're going to do anything, get off your ass and go talk to the people in your town, because you can only scale and you can only do, VAs for so long until you actually need contact with human beings, and you're not really going to get anything tangible unless you connect with those people around you, because those are the sources that are going to be bringing business back to you day to day, or they're just going to be connecting with you in such strong and emotional ways. And volunteering, I mean, financially, probably shouldn't, never know. I mean, I probably do it too much, but I enjoy it. Plus, it's given me, an opportunity sprouted up just recently that I got an idea for them to help raise some money. And it's helping me want to start a nonprofit organization that helps get people into this area that actually want to volunteer, or even people who want to visit from out of town, who want to come here and want to volunteer while they're on vacation. Who knows? If somebody has 4 hours of their day and they're like, oh, hey, look, this soup kitchen's open. Let's go over here and let's volunteer for a couple hours. Like, what else are we going to do? If you travel a lot and, you're not visiting a city you haven't been to 20 times, then yeah, you're going to want to find something else to do. Yeah, you can go to a baseball game, but after a while, what are you really giving back? You're just, at a certain point, you're just taking. So why not give back to a community? If you're going to go in and be a part of it for a short period of time, at least give something to it. But
I think that's what people don't, you're seeing, we travel a lot, so we're seeing a lot around the country, and the signs on almost every door, like, we're short staffed, like, have patience with us, blah blah blah, which, like, especially coming from the restaurant business that we did, our heart goes out to, these mom and pop shops and stuff like that. And so, if you're a business, if you're a bank, you're a car wash, you're, whatever it is, a smoothie shop or whatever, like, you are part of the community. And I think that we, as one of the things that we're seeing that is like a big mission for us is, like, it's not that small businesses people are not driven. It's not that they don't have a good idea. It's not that they're not hardworking. It's that they're exhausted. Like, they're physically exhausted. They're tired. They don't have, they're not making a ton of money. They're paying more than they would. Inflation's getting them. And so if you can go in and you can lift up their spirits for just a minute, or you can buy locally, or you can do these things, like, that is everything to them. And we have an obligation as somebody who is grateful for what they do have, to put their money in those places and maybe give them a smile or a thank you for, a great sandwich or something like that. Like, like, let's be honest, like, a chef that's getting into the business, like, he ain't doing it for money. And so he does it because he loves it, right? And so if you can say, like, hey man, that was a great sandwich, like, I really appreciate that, like, you have no idea what that means to him. It's not just the money that you put in the till.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that I think people have lost sight of. And that's what's got my fire going here, is just trying to better myself, because I feel like the more I do, the more opportunities I find to do more good. And I don't want to stop. Like, I'm trying to help everybody as much as possible. And yeah, I'm not slowing down at all.
Yeah, I think that there is, if you're, Tony Robbins says, if you can't give, 100 when you have nothing, then you're not going to give 1,000,000 when you have everything. And it's
exactly.
Like, you're kind of like, you have to put that muscle in your thing. And everybody's like, well, I don't have a lot to give. And it's like, yeah, but you can give your time, right? And everybody, I really, like, some people, some young kids will reach out to me and they're like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, just don't ask me why I'm spending time with you. Just know that somebody did this for me and I want to do it for you. And yeah, I might not be giving you money directly, but I might be giving you a lesson, or giving you my time, where that might generate money down the road. And so, everybody that's listening to this podcast who has a business or is an entrepreneur or whatever, like, is the muscle of giving, is the muscle of charity, is that already in your business plan, or is that already in your daily actions or your weekly actions? Like, if it's not, like, if you're not feeling fulfillment, if you're not feeling, if you're not feeling like, or you're just kind of like lost currently, like, maybe it's because you're not being fulfilled.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of interesting, because I actually I was messaging a friend of mine who lives in Bulgaria this morning, and she came out to San Antonio, and she was like on an exchange program as a server. And I asked her today, I was like, hey, do you keep in contact with anybody from when you were down there? And she goes, no, you're the only one. And I was like, that's weird. You met like 200 people. Why am I the only one? He said, well, people just, they seem nice and they are really helpful and they're kind when you need them, but they didn't follow through. And these people they just liked me there for the time that I was there, and then just written me off from the moment I left. And I think that's kind of sad because I mean, it kind of, if you think about it, that's how we are as a society. We are very helpful. We are very nice on the very, facial aspect of it and surface, but what are we deep down? Like, who are we really trying to help? Are we trying to help ourselves or someone else? Now, if you're growing your business or you're trying to develop yourself, then you got to help other people while you're doing it. A plant can't grow without help from the soil and water and the sunlight, period. If you think you can grow and thrive by yourself, then you're wrong. And I mean, if you can do it by yourself, that's great, but please tell me how you did it. I'll read that book.
I remember this guy said, quit watering the plant next to you and see how long you've been watering a weed.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And it's like, and I think one of the frustrations for me is that I've had to get over is like, not everybody's as driven as I am, but that doesn't mean that you can't be driven to give back, right? It doesn't mean that you can't be driven to help. Like, it's not all about the top line revenue. It's like, we have to create a space where like, that's why I think, it would be the funnest thing in the world. Like, I'm so obsessed with this idea. Like, I want to take all my friends' kids and I want to have them like have a at work day with like the companies and like see, be around the business and see how like, and I know this guy that we do business with, like his son, who's a sophomore in college, is going to come hang out with me for like 4 days. And he's going to like follow me in the meetings and listen to the coaching calls and be on the podcast and be in and follow the properties. And like, he's like, my son is going to lose it. Like when he gets to do this. And it's like, that's, it's nothing to me, like for him to hang out and teach him. Like, I think we should do more of that, like, and understand that you always have an opportunity to help somebody.
I agree. We actually did that in school when I was in middle school. I mean, I don't know if that was just an Oklahoma thing, because I mean, as I've told you in the past, it's the state's a little dated and the way they run things here is kind of archaic, but it's kind of beautiful at the same time because I mean, I did that exact thing. It was called job shadowing is what they called it at my school. And you found a fellow friend's parent or someone in the community and you just asked them. You had a little contract, a little waiver that says you're going to show up at this time on this date and say, hey, we're doing job shadowing. Do you mind if I job shadow you for the day? And then they teach you how to do their job for the day and you can learn a new thing. And they did it a couple of times. One of the times I shadowed my dad. He took me on the road for the week. So I got to go ride with him and I got to keep track of the logs. And it was really cool. And I mean, not a lot of people do that, but if the opportunity came up and somebody wanted to know, hey, like, can I shadow you for the day? Or, hey, do you know anybody that is in this industry that I can learn how to do this? I was like, sure, let me make a call. I'm sure I can find somebody.
I love that. What message do you want to send out to everybody that you hope that they hear?
That's a good question. You can do it. Plain and simple. I doubted myself for a long time, especially up until like recently. It was really bad. I reached a point where I didn't have any faith in myself and I didn't think that I could follow through. And, honestly, it is a 1% every day. It really is. I mean, a lot of books can tell you it's one way, but you really just have to feel it at a certain point and just do the work and don't lie about it. You'll know you lied about it and you're going to break a bond with yourself the moment you lie about something, because then you're not going to want to go back and do the work because people already heard that you knew it. And now you could be scared not to go back and learn the information. And then where are you at? You're in a situation where you don't know what you're talking about and you'll get weeded out real quick. I just think that people need to do it.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that's like, and a lot of people say this, a lot of people say that guy's that way, but I think one of the things that's very impressive about you is that you truly are out to help others and you don't need a lot and you don't want a lot. And it's really about the other person. And I know a lot of people say they are, but it's very impressive to have a front row seat to watch it in real life and watch how much in just a short amount of time, even in the last 3 to 4 months, how much you've grown. And it's only going to get exponentially from here. So if you're out there doing what you need to do and you're helping the place, we know the place is going to be a better for it. So it's impressive to have that kind of model to really keep that in the forefront for people. And I know, I know that the local community there and whoever else is affected is very appreciative for all the work that you do for others. And I'm sure they're very thankful to have you there now and see what you create in that space.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like I told you, I did travel a lot. So I have a huge family. I mean, I have 8 siblings, there's 9 of us. And to be honest with you, I'm really only close to one of them. So having a family isn't the same for me as it is for everyone else. So all these people that I go and connect with, especially in this community, are my family. And they used to call me a blessing, and then I had to correct them and say, no, I'm not a blessing, I'm your family. Like, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be up the street if you need me. And I love that. And I love that I can be helpful and that I can be there for any person that I know at the drop of a hat. I mean, that is what I enjoy the most, is literally just helping people out in any way. If they trust me enough to call me, I'm going to help them. I don't care what it is. That's just how I am.
No, I love that 100%. So if people want to follow you along on your journey, they want to see what you're up to, how would they do that?
I mean, you could go, I have my Instagram. It's, I'm sure I can send you the link so you can actually post it for them if they want to look at it. Anybody can email me if they want. It's ryanjones834@gmail. If you want, anybody can call or text me if anybody wants to talk or if they need anything, call me. I'd love to meet new people. I like going to new areas. If you need help with something or you just want someone to talk to, you can call me 210-982-5019. Feel free. My girlfriend might not like it, but it's going to happen either way.
Love it. And he will pick up, guys, I promise. So
absolutely.
Guys, if you like this episode, send it to your friends, share it with somebody, get some value. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.